I want you to know, and it's controversial when I say it, is I heard a woman on another podcast who said thinking is ghetto. And I sat with that. I was like, thinking is ghetto. And I just sat there and thought about all the time that I sit there and I think, and how much energy it takes and how I'm trying to figure something out. And I was like, okay, how can I take what she says and really apply it to my life? And I realized what she truly meant. You don't have to keep going through things 25 times, and you don't have to think about it to understand it. You need to know.
Welcome to the Ocean Mighty Learning Podcast, where genius is celebrated, joy is the catalyst, and we learn most deeply by teaching what lights us up. I'm Parshel Oshimade, executive learning producer, curriculum designer, and former high school math teacher, and lover of all things wisdom.
And I'm Portia Michelle Oshimade, client experience designer, business coach, joy strategist, and a lifelong learner of the sacred and the strategic. Together, we're excavating wisdom from our brightest and most brilliant friends and partners, gaining insight that transform how we learn and how we teach in today's world.
So join us as we offer insights, community wisdom, and unique perspectives on experiential learning. So welcome to the show. All right, here we are. We are live. This is happening. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Oshimade Learning Podcast. I'm Parshel, joined by Portia. We are the Oshimades. Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop. Hello, all. Welcome into another Oshimade Learning Podcast. We are here slanging unconventional wisdom. I'm so excited about kind of what we're going to be diving into today, because it is one of those things that is a conversation that gets had in the background but doesn't quite always get had in the foreground. So I'm very excited that we're going to get to have an out loud conversation about this today. But for starters, how you doing for real, Parshel? How was your week?
You know, the week has been very, very busy, but I also feel like it's been very productive. Shout out to Merkaba Technology and their daily planner, because I've been in that, literally have that page open throughout the whole day, and everything I need to do is focused on what's happening there. So that's been hugely helpful. I also am just celebrating also, like there's a lot of things that happened this week also that were kind of like, you know, you get rejection, well, not rejections, but just no's, right? But I'm just celebrating the closeness of community and people around, because they were like, Partial, you're good. We just keep going. I think Micah told me, like, every no is just a wall that's in front of you, like you're in a maze, right? And then you just go, all right, now I can go left or right, and you just keep going.
Oh, yeah, it was like that Tyler Perry analogy.
Yes, yep. But that's been it. Just excited for the spring in Vegas. We're already about to hit an event later on today.
Oh, yes.
Because it's time to be outside.
I'm very excited about my samosas. Today, when y'all actually listen to this, I think it probably will be a couple months from now, but today we are going to the Indian Food Fest, and I'm trying to get my pani puri on. I'm trying to do a little background dancing, trying to drop it a little bit. One time while it's not ridiculously fucking hot in Vegas, because we're like in that window of time where it feels good to be outside. That window will close very quickly.
Yes, before you know it, it's gonna slap you in the face.
That and that.
But I am also too just looking forward to casting for a minute, and it's been a long time being in the space, and most of my conversations with people are like leadership and development and business and growth and marketing, like you name it. This will be the first time coming on to a podcast and have a conversation about womb health. WOMB, womb health.
In the womb. This is
in the
important.
womb.
This is where it starts, in the womb. We get real hotep on the people. The womb. No, I'm just kidding.
The womb.
It's such an interesting. We were even kind of chitty chatting before we bring YaShaun on. We were just kind of chitty chatting before kind of even hopping onto this podcast about how often we're not having these conversations. And it's like 8 out of 10 of us as Black folks, if you have a womb, it's like 8 out of 10 people have discomfort, fibroids, endometriosis, painful periods, discomfort symptoms, bloating, backaches. These are all things that so many of our population are experiencing. We're just not talking about. And again, I can't wait to bring YaShaun on, because when you go to the doctor, it ain't like you can talk to them about it, because they're, learned this much information. Again, we'll get into the meat of why that is, and what YaShaun thinks about why that is and what we can be doing. But I'm very proud of you, Parshal, for having this podcast be in your space, because I think that as entrepreneurs, particularly as leaders in our world, this is the stuff that keeps us from actually showing up to the work. When you're down 3 weeks out of the month, and then you're wondering why you feel unmotivated, this may not have to do with your marketing strategy, babes.
Right.
No shade. Like, this is why I always tell people, you gonna do your soul work, or your soul work is gonna do you. It's really one or the other. And this is one of those opportunities, I think, to learn about how you can be in right relationship with your body, so that you actually can show up to the work.
%. Well, what about you, Portia? What's going on here? How you doing for real?
Well, man, the cycle syncing girly, checking in. It's been my follicular phase all week, so I'm slightly getting a little bit more energy, but I've been tired. The retrogrades took me the fuck out. Like the eclipse season and the retrogrades, I did so much internal work on like mental space, and like, we normally kind of start the podcast off with like, what did we learn? I learned so much about the need for me to maintenance my relationships more frequently. I think that I can get into this mode sometimes where it's like, well, I'm in relationship with people, whether that's business relationship or friendship or familial or romantic. And it's like, well, we're in it, we're on it. It's kind of like, it can sometimes feel one and done. But I'm realizing in all of this beautiful retrograde and eclipse energy that relationships not only need to be maintenance on a regular basis, we probably need to maintenance them more frequently than we think that we do. Those check-ins of like, are we still on track? Does this still make sense? Do we still like what we're doing? Do we need to change the game? Need to be happening more frequently, particularly for the relationships that you're in the long term. I'm a lifer in a lot of my dynamics, platonic, business, romantic. I'm like, you stuck, we fucks with me, we stuck. That's it. That's what it is for a long time. But if you want long-term relationship to still feel really good, I'm realizing that I need to do a better job of showing up to those relationships and checking in more often, because as time passes, we change. We change every 6 months, likely. You know what I mean? You got Scorpio placements, you may change every 3 months. Like, I have to reintroduce myself to so many people, and I had to be reintroduced to so many of my partners across the board in life, in business, in family as well. So that's what's been loud for me. That's probably been like the biggest learning of coming into this week.
I hear you in that. Bit. And there's stuff that we're learning every day, every week, I feel like. And also we're doing really well with the Artist Way. So a group of us are doing the Artist Way book together, which has kind of helped to bring some of these things to the light, and helping us just to reflect on what we're learning week to week. So that's also been like a powerful container for, learning this week. And also shout out to the Business Cousins. I'm calling them our official sponsor of this podcast episode.
I love.
So Portia, anything that you want to mention or with the Business Cousins?
Yeah, I will also say, it has been such a learning gathering, called to serve leaders together in community to be in resourced relationship with each other. And that's really what Business Cousins is all about. It's an opportunity for, again, called to serve leaders to be around other leaders and be around other business professionals and get the support that they need to have their businesses do the work in the world that actually make the world the kind of world we want to live in. I have loved being head cousin of this community, and it is an active, thriving community. So the community brings its own shifts and changes, and that has been really beautiful to see. If you are a call to serve leader and you know that you want to be in community with other folks, and if you need some support for your business internally as well, come down to the Business Cousins. Come find me where the find me is. I know when this gets posted, there will be Instagram and links and emails and things. If you're interested in coming to play with us, we would absolutely love to have you. If you like being with people, right, you're gonna be good to others because they're gonna be good to you. And if you want the world to be more livable and lovable for us all, and you know that the work that you do actually aligns you with that value and vision, we would absolutely love to have you. We have our internal kind of community inside of our community called the Support Squad, that are all the business development professionals that are committed to supporting call to serve leaders make the world better. YaShaun, our guest today, is one of our Support Squad members. Again, getting y'all this work, because at the end of the day, I'm going to give you a good marketing plan. Great. I'm going to help you with your client experience. great. But if you can't get out the bed 3 weeks out the month because you are locked down, you know what I mean, with period pain, I want you to be sitting in front of these soul work practitioners as well to get your mind, body, and soul right so that you can show up to the big work for the calling of your life. Because the calling of your life work is going to require your wellness. And I want you to be able to have your wellness maintained and maintenance as well. So I would say, again, if you're interested in any of that, come find me where you find me. We would absolutely love, love, love to have you. And we're so grateful, YaShaun, for coming on today and being on our support squad and being available so you can ask your questions directly of YaShaun. She got office hours, y'all. So you can come ask your question. Why does my period feel like this? When I eat this, it does this. What it's going to do. That's all available inside of the Business Cousins. So if these are things that you want, I will come on down and get them.
Thank you for that, Portia. I'm also a fellow business cousin. Business cousins are here in the house.
Hey.
So let's go ahead and jump on and introduce YaShaun. So today, everybody, I'm thrilled to welcome YaShaun Ball, a remarkable board-certified holistic health practitioner who's revolutionizing the way we think about wellness. YaShaun brings a unique approach to health, specializing in what she calls body-conscious, symptom-based healing. She's the expert you want in your corner when you're dealing with chronic pain, getting your hormones back in balance, or understanding how to work with your body's natural cycles. What we love about YaShaun's approach is how she blends traditional healing wisdom with modern wellness strategies. She just doesn't treat symptoms. She empowers her clients to become active participants in their health journey. And through her evidence-based holistic guidance, she helps people across the country transform their relationships with their bodies and become their own best health advocates. YaShaun, welcome in.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. Cousins in the house.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to be a part of Cousins, and thank you so much for that introduction.
We're so happy to have you, YaShaun. I got to tell y'all a little bit from the side about like how I met YaShaun. Before we get into asking you some get to know you questions, I met YaShaun in community, actively sourcing my own support because I am a person who is suffering from fibroids, and I am an ambitious Black girl. Shout out to Tatiana in our ambitious Black girl community. And my ambition landed me in the hospital 2 or 3 times in the last 3 to 4 months, particularly around my womb wellness. And I was actively looking for someone in the Las Vegas community that was a specialist in this. And I happened to look up a Yoni Steam place and found YaShaun. We ended up meeting up, I think, like at another a gorgeous another practitioner in town who has a book called the Uterus Bar, right?
Sorry, yep.
Yes,
Artisha,
I
welcome
think
to you.
yes, Artisha, and I think I may have met you at her event and was like, how do I know more? How do I source support? And again, for the people who are listening, YaShaun is the person that I am actively sourcing my womb wellness support from. Again, I don't bringing y'all everybody. I be bringing y'all the people that I'm actually using. YaShaun is one of those magical humans who's a part of my care team. So thank you for the care that you bring to me, and thank you for being willing to open up this conversation for the people, YaShaun. It's so good to have you.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was such a pleasure to meet you at the Ambitious Black Girl, and I had heard so much about you and didn't realize that we were in the same CEO support group. We were just channeling each other, didn't even know it. So I think that is just so cool.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Well, my dear, we're gonna ask you a couple quick get to know you questions, and then we're gonna get into like the meat and potatoes of what's really going on this podcast. So we call these rapid fire questions. So they're like quick answer questions that I feel like help us really get to know like the woman behind the brand. So feel free to answer these really quickly. Now we're gonna start you off easy. Desert sunsets or beach sunsets?
Desert sunset.
Very good. Okay. Now, you're walking into Costco. What's the first thing you're making a beeline for?
Probably going straight to the fruit section.
Now, what are we getting in the food section?
I'm probably going to get some mangoes, frozen mangoes.
The sliced little mango like slivers in Costco where you get like 2 full pounds. That's a
Yeah.
win. Equally, that's one of my first stops at a Costco. Is the even the little crunchy ones be bomb, but that's just me. They're not quite soft yet. Okay. What is the most practical thing in your Amazon cart right now?
Oh gosh. Probably, oh my God, practical? Okay, I'm gonna say my books. to match my Audibles. I want the hardcovers. I just haven't purchased.
Well, that is very practical. Very responsible of you, friend. That's a win. Okay. Okay, now we're going to turn up the heat slightly. What's a movie that you love but everybody else hates?
The Lake House. I don't feel like anyone cares about that movie. That's my favorite.
Clearly, I'm everyone. I've never even heard about it. What is the Lake House?
Sandra
Is that with
Bullock.
Sandra Bullock?
Yes, it's my favorite love story.
Wow. Okay. It's been a minute since I've seen that.
Nobody cares about it. It deserves more. Oscar worthy.
Okay. I am a Sandra Bullock girl, so I will investigate the lake house on your behalf. Thank you for the
Yeah.
recommendation. You are right. Clearly, nobody knows about it. Okay. In the same little bit of heat, what's one trend that's happening right now that you just can't get with or don't even understand? Could be a trend from your industry or just a trend on Instagram in general.
A trend that I can't get with. You know what? I can't get with the trend of why Black men are not going to college or why they're dropping out in comparison to Black women. I just can't participate in the conversation.
There's a
Yeah.
word there. There's a word that could be a whole podcast, friend. We ain't gonna go too deep, but seeing you in it, stand on your own 10 toes down on that, because
Yeah.
there's a lot there that I'm like, huh. I see where we're going and questioning the medium.
I think they're missing the big point, and as a teacher's daughter, I have a different perspective on some things. And yeah, that's a worthy conversation, just not on social media.
Yeah, yeah, a word being said there. Okay, last question, probably the hottest of them all, separating Black people across the diaspora for years and months. When it comes to your grits, salt or sugar? The people need to
Okay,
know.
I love this. Okay, so I am a sugar and salt girl in my grits, but my grits must be whipped. It must be whipped. If you can make me grits in 10 to 20 minutes, I don't want them. I must have creamy whipped grits. I make the best grits. It's going to put you to sleep.
With that, I'm with that. YaShaun, you have to understand that both Parshell and I are salt and sugar people. Like, we like salt and sugar
Really?
together. No one else likes that. I'm like, I guess we're not crazy.
It's going to taste nasty if it's just salt. It's going to taste nasty if it's just sugar. They complement each other.
But, babe, do you see? This is why. This is why you be cousin, because we really here. Now
We
we're at a
here.
different level. This is why the get to me. I'm like, we're gonna get to know your body of work, but this is how you really get to know a person. Is like, how
These
do they
questions.
Yes.
navigate their grit?
Can I ask a hot seat question? I asked on TikTok yesterday, Waffle House or IHOP?
Ooh,
IHOP.
see, okay. Parshall says IHOP, and I'm a little concerned that you say IHOP because didn't you grow up around Waffle Houses?
I grew up around both.
Okay,
I grew up around both. If I had to choose between the two, I would definitely say IHOP.
okay. I
I'm
am
thinking
equally
also
an
of their
IHOP
sweet
girl.
tea.
I mean, the IHOP over here on Fort Apache, I don't understand what crack is going on over there, but it's the best sweet tea I've ever had. And I don't even understand why, because you don't go to IHOP for sweet tea. But it's somebody, grandmama back there, who done made the recipe and is bringing tea bags from
Brewing
her
tea.
house on the porch. Parsha, I think you paused. Say that again.
It's probably cut back in and out. No, I
Yep.
said it's probably brewed tea. Someone's brewing the tea. That's what it tastes
Literally.
like.
It literally tastes like somebody grandmama got the tea on their porch and then brought it into the IHOP. We'll be with it. I'm an IHOP girly. I'm an IHOP over Waffle House person, but I'm also a West Coast girl. So I don't have the same nostalgic relationship with Waffle House. To me, it tastes like Denny's, and I'm not a Denny's person. I don't know why. People are going to barbecue me for this, but the food tastes microwave. But it could just be that I haven't been to enough Waffle Houses. So I will offer that somebody invite me to Waffle House so that I can rectify my relationship with the brand. But those are my thoughts.
I'm definitely an IHOP girl from day one. Okay. I'm always going to choose IHOP for real, for real. But being from Florida, right? Being raised in Florida, I had the best of both worlds. And I'm going to be honest, Waffle House does not taste the same during the day. If I eat it before 10 p.m., I don't know what that food is. That's foreign to me. It tastes so different than eating it at 11 o'clock at night after you've gone out. It's just a completely different thing at 2 o'clock in the morning. So that's the only way I'm going to eat Waffle House.
That that's how I feel about Denny's. I'm like, when I was in my 20s and plastered, there was nothing in the world better than Denny's. You go eat it on a regular day as an adult, and I'm like, why does this taste like a microwave meal that I paid $12 for?
Exactly.
That's Thank you for asking. It's a very good rapid fire question. As we kind of wrap into that, it kind of brings me into my next question. I'd love to know a little bit more about kind of the background of how you ended up in this work. I know you said you're from Florida. Kind of tell me a little bit about how where you grew up and kind of like what brought you even into the wellness conversation to begin with.
That's such a great question. So yes, I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and I moved to Florida at 2 years old. So I'd like to say I'm basically Florida grown, well, because that is home base for me. And oh, man, my journey of holistic health and just womb wellness really started with my mother trying to find different ways to soothe my menstrual cycle. I started at 10 years old, and it was not very kind to me. It was loud, it was painful, and my mother had experienced difficulties with her menstrual cycle, but not to the severity of mine. And she would just, I was too young for Motrins, I was too young for certain things, so she had to find alternatives. And when I could get the medication, I was medicated for years where it was just easier. And fast forward, I had a early pregnancy, and then I had my son. So I am was a teen mother. So I had my first son at 16, and that was supposed to change the game for me. I heard women saying for years that, oh, once you have a baby, those menstrual symptoms go away and life will be different. That's not what happened. I did have a C-section, so that could be why I didn't get some of the benefits, and I got some more of the worse effects, I would say, that were more detrimental. I feel like my journey really kicked off then, because at that point, I was trying to advocate for myself after having a cesarean. I'm like, what is happening? At this time, I had already had like my second business at the age of 16. I had my son now. I'm on birth control, taking the Mirena, the IUD, which ultimately was embedded into my uterus, so it had to be surgically removed. Yeah. So
Oh
then
my God.
going through the Mirena crash and trying to find, so every step of the way, I was just trying to figure out, well, how do I help? What do I get? And then I had insurance on and off, on and off. So at one point, Medicaid, and next point, no insurance. So in those in between, when I didn't have a doctor, I was on Google. I was looking at somebody's program. I was trying to learn something, and there just was no one out there who was giving out this type of information. And so I was piecing a lot together based on what I'm learning from the doctors, the OBGYNs, and also just learning to nurture myself. And then ultimately by 19, I had became vegan by accident. I just tried the fast, the Sebi way, which was wonderful. It took away so much pain for months, maybe even a year or so. And I was like, well, I'm not going to eat meat again. I was scared. So I committed to this, and now I'm in year 10. Over the time, just seeing more and more doctors for allergies, for other symptoms that I'm experiencing that I didn't know was contributing factors to the womb.
Mm. That's so interesting. Okay. So, a couple of pieces there. So, one, I can hear that, like most called to serve entrepreneurs, it started with like, how do I treat myself and how do I make sure that I get that? But I also heard you say that you had already a couple of businesses. So, what made you decide to put your business acumen behind this working, like go the route of getting certified and like start walking other people through this conversation?
I realized that I was never going to shut up about my story because everyone who came in contact with me was so vulnerable with me, and they would just share. Somehow we always got on the conversation of menstrual, and I'm like, why do I know everybody's menstrual business? Is this a normal girl talk, or is it just with me? Then I started talking with some other people who were just like, I have a girlfriend who's going through X, Y, and Z. I have a spouse who's going through X, Y. And I'm like, okay, so everyone who's menstruating is going through something, and we're not having the conversation. And I was like, wait a minute, what is it that I can do here? But I didn't know how to jump in. So I went to school for nutrition. So nutrition is my actual baseline of how I can help you.
Love, love. And so as you were kind of navigating some of those pieces, because this is what it always gets to me is like doctors who we trust with our whole lives, like if I'm gonna go and I got something going on with my heart, I'm going to a cardiologist. I'm not asking the cardiologist what scalpel is he finna use, what color is the thing gonna be at the table. I'm trusting that my cardiologist knows what to do with my heart. But it seems to me like the information that I'm hearing you say, and I know my own personal experience, when I go to the OBGYN, if I'm not having a baby, they have no idea how to help me. Like they're like, gonna give me honestly similar things that I would find on Google. Have you found that that's your experience? And even kind of, I think it's so interesting that you come in from nutrition lens, because most doctors don't know a whole lot about nutrition either. It's like, I'm gonna give you a pill, and if this pill can't fix it, vibes.
Yes, it is 100% true. There is a huge disconnect with womb care, menstruation care, and also women's health. And the reason being is back in the day, back when doctors were becoming doctors and they were building the schools, the universities, women weren't seen as humane. The female organs weren't considered humane, and they once thought that orgasms were not a good thing. They once didn't understand the difference between why some women have a hymen and don't have a hymen. So in actuality, we had to play catch up, and then we had to bundle it all together and focus on the main things. Okay, this type of human can have a baby, this type cannot. What's most important? How do we keep her functioning to have a child? And then now in today's world, when we're doing the gender changes, right? How do we make sure that they can safely operate if they have a change or don't have a change and still menstruating? So we're putting a lot of pieces together, and those who are really dedicated to making sure that people who are menstruating are taking care of their health are in the research side. They're not on the front line doctors. So they're fighting the system. They're trying to implement. They're putting out what chemicals do and don't work. They're out there getting those statistics together. So really, we want to make sure that we acknowledge our research teams because they're never seen and they're never heard. And sometimes we're like, well, duh, doctor should have been known that. But it's the research team that has to get approval and go through all the different hoops just to get it to the doctor.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And it feels to me like it's only been maybe the last 10 or 15 years that I've even heard people outside of folks who are in chronic pain. And even that, even having these conversations, like it feels like wombs have been around since humans have been around, but we've just started studying and being in relationship with how to make sure that they're, prioritized in the last like 10 or 15 years. And don't it always come back to patriarchy? Don't it always come back to the idea that, a small group of white dudes was like, we need population to increase. We don't actually give a fuck if you, are happy about it. If your body is functioning right, what happens afterwards? You know what I mean? And it's insane that we're at this place where, we're just now having it, but thank God we're having the conversation now, to be honest. In that same kind of vein, what is something that you wish that all menstruators knew about how to go about caring for themselves in this space, or even like about how to handle their conversations with their doctors?
What I wish that any doctor, any mother, aunt, sister, cousin would have told me is, hey, you need to be so in tune with your body that no one can tell you differently. You need to be aware and you need to know what symptoms really mean, and you need to know how to track your menstrual. We talk about tracking our menstrual on a level of, when's the last time you had intercourse? How long was your menstrual cycle? But we never talk about what you're truly experiencing. And that is something that young girls need to know from day one, right? Because without understanding the basics of what is my normal to what has become abnormal but a new normal, we can't advocate for ourselves.
The YaShaun Learning Podcast is brought to you by two sponsors that are near and dear to our hearts. Because we built them. First up, Business Cousins. Business Cousins is a collective of call to serve leaders who are building businesses that create impact that actually matters. We're about doing real good in the world, giving people the results they paid for, and having a damn good time doing it. If you're into running a business that you actually love, hanging out with smart and soulful folks while you do it, and being supported every step of the way, this may be the room for you. We host gatherings, workshops, and offer ongoing business development support that's as human as it is helpful. If you're interested, apply today at thebusinesscousin.com. Check us out at www.thebusinesscousin.com. And then there's the Author's Leverage. That's our studio for turning your body of work into powerful learning tools. Whether it's digital workbooks, private podcasts, or binge-worthy education content that helps you scale your impact without burning out, we specialize in transforming complex ideas into accessible, engaging learning experiences that your audience will actually use and implement. Our team of expert creators, instructional designers, and production specialists ensure that your wisdom reaches more people in the ways that truly resonate. If you're an expert, author, thought leader, sitting on brilliance, let us help you package it. Learn more at theauthorsleverage.com. That is theauthorsleverage.com. That's a very, very good point. And let's talk a little bit more about there. So when I met you, one of the things that kind of blew my mind that you said to me was like, oh yeah, menstrual pain is not a normal conversation. It's normalized. Lots of people have it, but that doesn't mean that it's normal. Discomfort is actually not normal. And I'm like, oh, I think that a lot of us feel like it's supposed to be painful. It's supposed to be, it goes back to this like Adam and Eve, old school Christianity conversation of like, it's supposed to be this uncomfortable space. Is that the case, or is it normal for people to have a lot of discomfort and pain? And is that something that actually can be mitigated?
So in today's world, it would be considered normal to have discomfort, not pain. However, if we're looking at different traditions, meaning they're cultural, or we're looking at even certain religious beliefs, there was a point in time where menstrual cycles were 2 days and they were a light bleed. There are some cultures where they don't even get their first menstrual cycle until they're 20 something years old, and it only lasts 3 to 5 days, and it's very light. There's women who have never had a cycle longer than 5 days and never worn a super pad before in their life. So because there's so many groups of people in other cultures that have been able to live without pain, we cannot say over here in the United States that it is normal to live without pain because we've never experienced it over here. But there's a whole world where people who are menstruating, non binary, women, all of the above, who are actually going through life without pain and discomfort. So I truly believe, as a holistic practitioner, that pain is not normal. Discomfort, I can understand because the body's going to talk to you, especially if you change something in your lifestyle. So I don't want to say that that's not normal. I want to say that's something that needs to be acknowledged.
I think that's a very, very good point. I think that what comes up for me as you said that is one, when I think about indigenous cultures and how much more in right relationship with their own cyclical nature, with the earth, with the foods and the things that are being ingested, there's a different level of symbiotic natural relationship that would make everything on that same cycle. So I imagine that, cultures that are less industrialized, less inundated with stimuli, less stressed, probably are having, smoother cycles, because the way that I understand energetically and spiritually, you hold unprocessed feelings, angst, and energy in your womb space. Is that something that you've been kind of taught as well?
Yes. So I actually learned that through talking to clients, getting the elder women's experiences and getting to know other cultures. Like I remember being in middle school, going to the bathroom, my menstrual cycle, and other cultures like Indian girls, Filipino girls are looking at me like, wow, like that hasn't happened yet. Like, what's it like? And I'm just thinking to myself, how do I get like you? Like, does this go away and come back? And I just remember just feeling like, man, how come it seems like all the black girls have theirs so early, and even white girls getting theirs even later, and then Hispanic women somewhere in between. But then all the rest of the cultures, they're not even in the conversation of early teen pregnancy and stuff like that because it can't even happen yet.
That is so interesting. And that's something I think worth kind of speaking to and talking about also on this podcast. The exorbitant amount of endometriosis, fibroids, early onset menopause and perimenopause, hysterectomy is drastically affecting the Black community over others. I think a lot of that has to do with how much stress we have to hold on our shoulders on a regular basis. I think a lot of that also has to do with the food deserts and the nutrition deficiencies that show up in our communities and our ability to be able to navigate that. I know I had two parents that worked 10 to 13-hour days on a regular basis. So oftentimes when we were going to dinner, it was the drive-through or the rice-a-roni box. Neither of those are particularly great for my womb wellness and ongoing, nutritional benefit in general in my body. And I think a lot of us have that similar symptom. What is your thought about why you think these symptoms and this pain particularly is more primarily affecting the Black community?
Honestly, starting with the chemical intake, environmental. And so, one of the things that I teach when we're working with becoming body conscious is what's something that's in your control and then what's not in your control. Typically, your environment is not in your control at that moment. And so, what chemicals are you surrounded by? What are you breathing in? So, what can you control? Okay, I can get me an air purifier to help me not breathe in certain toxins. Another thing is we don't have access to the same medical care depending upon where you are brought up. Like you said, parents working 2 and 3 jobs to take care of the basic needs of today, which means we can't afford continuous medical care. So we're not getting allergy tests done at 10 years old. And we only find out if we have a real allergic reaction to something once we eat it versus other kids who have known, oh, I've never had, crabs because I got a test panel done at 3 years old and it turns out I'm allergic. So they're not having certain foods that are causing food sensitivity in the gut, which also contribute to these symptoms that you are experiencing. And I'll be honest, the lack of education, the lack of conversation that we're not having in our community, and the embarrassment of how we look, how we feel. We don't know how to convey that to our children outside of this is what's going to happen, this is how I prepare you, and we think that's it. And so we're passing it down to the next child, to the next child, and we don't know how to build off of it. And so when we're looking at practices that were once, deemed witchcraft or that witchy stuff,
Mm.
that holistic stuff, we don't do that. That voodoo stuff, a lot of it is not witchy. Putting herbs together and then steaming on a pot or putting herbs together and drinking it per phase of your menstrual is not witchy. It's not some weird hoodoo stuff that you can just try to make it go away. These are things that are going to help with future menstrual cycles. And that's another stigma. We think that what we do today is supposed to help for tomorrow instead of understanding that it's a process. Give everything its own time and then it will begin to show up if it works for your body. So in the church, we're not allowed to have these conversations because she's menstruating, so she's grown now. And then seeing her as an adult, and then mothers and aunties looking at her like, okay, now you got a different walk. She's in pain. Yeah, she got a different walk, and she's having these different hormones and she's going through puberty, and there's so many contributing factors outside of sexualizing our children. So that is why we can't have the conversation because we've been beat down with a lot of religious talk. We've been beat down where we don't have access to books and education and we don't have the time because we're trying to live.
I think that that's a very good point. And Parsha, I'm even interested in hearing kind of your thoughts and popping in here because I know, your background definitely is something to where, lots of conservatism, lots of Christianity conversations. What do you remember being taught about, your menstrual cycle or even the symptoms that may have come around it?
Yeah, like nothing. Like when I really look back, there was no real conversation around it like that. And I do remember when I first got my cycle, I remember being in school and I think my mom, she came and got me. And again, there wasn't like a lot of conversation there. I think that just like she and most of their parents did, doing the best that they can, just be like, all right, this is what you need, this is what's happening, there's how you do this. And there was never really a conversation from there about it. Now, I did also grow up through most of my early menstruating years with very, 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 very irregular periods. So it was never something that was constantly on my mind like that up until, right, the conversations you had about like the expectations of, someone who identifies as a woman to now be preparing for marriage and to be bearing children. So the fact that I was having irregular periods, I literally thought nothing of it, until I got married to him, then went through the process of trying to get pregnant. So then it was like, now it's a thing. Now it's a topic in a conversation, right, to dive into, to which I understood that I was diagnosed with PCOS at that time. And so that kind of gave me just a different awareness at that point, though I didn't have most of the, pain and tons of discomfort. What's interesting, though, like you said, going back to the times and I guess those spaces where those conversations would be had, to answer your question, there was none. And the only conversations that I did have was when I was trying to check off the box of, okay, I'm a woman, I should be having kids.
I think that's a very good point. And thank you for sharing that. And I would say, in my world, interestingly similar in regards to not necessarily being resourced, but my mom was doing everything she could to resource me. She would try to give me all the information. She didn't have the information. And I know for me, I very similarly had very irregular periods. I think I had my first cycle in 7th grade. So what is that, like 12 or 13? And I remember kind of like, the only information I got about my period, I got a little bit from my mom, but the rest was from my friends. It was like, here's the, I was in the choir. So it was like, here's the choir girls tampon procedure. Like, here's what happens if you start your period while we're, on travel vacation, competing somewhere. And like, we had a little protocol of like, we would go through to the bathroom and make sure you're not spotting. And like, that was really all I got. And because my periods were so irregular and because I'm an entrepreneur, I've always had an interesting relationship of when I've been insured and when I have not. And so the ability to be able to go to the doctor and check on, where things are at, like we talked about, was not necessarily as accessible to me on a regular basis, particularly when I started my entrepreneurship journey. And my symptoms didn't show up like other folks. At the time when I was married to somebody who was having drastic fibroid symptoms, bleeding liters a day, had to have 3 blood transfusions to save her life to even get the hysterectomy surgery. And I'm like, well, that's what fibroids is. And then my little self end up in the hospital with almost no symptoms. And I'm like, I had 0 symptoms. And then all of a sudden I was in the hospital. And that's what even made me go, I don't know how my body functions fully. That is really where I need to start. It's kind of understanding, like, how does my body function? I'm walking around in this meat suit every day and I don't actually know how it works. I don't know what the organs do. I don't know how they talk to each other. I don't know why I'm in the hospital. And when I asked them, they were like, well, you have a fibroid. And I was like, okay, great. They were like, yeah, that's why you're here. And I'm like, how long have I had it? I wasn't here yesterday. So why am I here today? And they were like, well, go to your primary doctor for insurance at the time that I didn't have, and like, and see if they can figure out why this pain is putting you in the hospital. And that just wasn't enough for me. And again, I'm always so shocked when you go to the medical doctor and these are the people who we trust to be able to tell us what's wrong, have no idea what's wrong. But now I'm learning and knowing that, like, you got to be your own medical advocate. Like, nobody's going to know your body better than you. And that's not fair to ask a stranger to understand the inner workings of your body in ways that you don't understand the inner workings of your body. And so I kind of feel like in that same vein, YaShaun, like, what is it that you want all of us to know about being our own medical advocates? Like, what are the things that we need to know about how our body functions so that we actually can have better care as we're thinking through this as menstruators and in general?
I want you to know, and it's controversial when I say it, is I heard a woman on another podcast who said thinking is ghetto. And I sat with that. I was like, thinking is ghetto. And I just sat there and thought about all the time that I sit there and I think, and how much energy it takes and how I'm trying to figure something out. And I was like, okay, how can I take what she says and really apply it to my life? And I realized what she truly meant. You don't have to keep going through things 25 times. And you don't have to think about it to understand it. You need to know. So, in my opinion, knowing what's going on with your body is the number one way you can advocate for yourself. So, instead of thinking this food caused a symptom, or thinking this headache is related to my menstrual cycle. You need to know. You need to be in the know, because essentially you are putting yourself in a position when you talk to these doctors to only meet you where you're at. And as frustrating as it sounds, and never do I want to undermine or dismiss anyone's feelings, but think about when you're having a conversation with someone about a topic they're unaware of. Let's say you are the expert in this topic and you're talking to someone else and you're trying to understand their feelings and emotions about something they don't know about. So technically, they're uneducated and they're speaking to you. We all know that's like talking to a brick wall. Your doctor is technically talking to a brick wall. You know your body better than anyone else. The insurance only allows me 20 to 30 minutes to talk to you. You got to know what you're feeling, what's going on, what's happening. If not, I got to give you the best answer based on the information you gave me. I'm only going to go with the surface level of stuff because I'm not going to advise certain things outside of a basic surgery and medication or what I'm putting together in my mind, because I don't have time to go sit back down, open up my medical books and put all your symptoms together when you haven't taken the time out to really understand, is that a temporary symptom? Is this something that you've been experiencing for a year? Because if you've been experiencing for a year, we might want to give you this type of medication or procedure. But if you've only had it for 3 months, what changed in your life? And everyone always says, I'm doing the same thing. I haven't changed nothing in my life, or I've been pretty consistent, or I've been eating that food. I used to eat that years ago and I just started eating it again. You don't see anything wrong with your own process. And you can't ask the medical doctor to advocate for you when you can't express yourself. And that was frustrating for me because I had to admit that and I figured that out by myself. They're not against me, they're working against the insurance. When they went to school for all these years and gotten all this debt, they didn't know that they were going to be told what to do. They didn't know they were going to be told that they have to push certain procedures. They can't listen to you all the time and that they have to do X, Y, and Z. So some of them, they're in the mindset of, I got to get this debt paid and then I can go into private practice. Or I'm working in the hospital, I got to follow the rules. I can only give you little tips and stuff here and there, but you're going to have to seek help outside of this, which is why you need practitioners who can educate you, advocate with you, help you learn the language. You need someone in between you and the doctor, the bridge. Who is your bridge? Because if you're your only bridge, then that means you got to be dedicated to yourself. That means it has to be priority number one. And that's challenging in today's world. We need help because we haven't been doing this since a young girl. So that is really the gap. That is truly why doctors and practitioners and holistic health coaches are all against each other, because we all think we're the problem. We all think we're the problem when we're a united solution in a particular order. A coach is to just get your life together, okay? Practice, learning how to say yes to yourself and your career and stuff. Then you have a practitioner who's going to help guide you and give you a little bit of direction, help you say yes and no to things and stay on track. Then you have a doctor who's going to look at the reflection of what both a coach and a practitioner did. And yes, practitioners are coaches as well, so you can get a 2-in-1 if you don't want to see three people. Their doctor's job is to look at the results of what you tried, the trial and error, what you experienced, what's happening, what's the change, so that they can give you their medical advice on how to move forward.
A word was shared. I hope y'all are listening because a word was shared. And I think if I can, what I heard from me in that is it's your job to get to know your body. And if you don't know it and you need support making it your number one priority, get a coach to get that work. If you need guidance in what things you can start to try to be in deeper relationship with mitigating your symptoms, get a practitioner to learn those tips, tools, and tricks. That way you can go to your doctor with data and evidence, and then they can actually show up great for you rather than us just vilifying the doctors, right? Can we be in relationship with how we can be autonomous and sovereign in our own journey to be the best medical advocates that we can for ourselves when we know that we live in a world that likely is going to put us in places where we're not going to be at our best health. There's chemicals all over the place. things in what it is that we eat. We live these incredibly capitalistic, stressful lives. You likely are going to need some support. It's likely going to need to be something that you put time, effort, and energy into knowing rather than guessing, rather than thinking, rather than going on your emotions and expecting the doctor to be able to sift through your emotions for symptoms. Like, I love that you named this, because I think that maybe back in the day when the doctor used to come to the house, you know what I mean, and could sit with you, when the doctor had, less than 5 patients that they had to see a day, there may have been more time to be able to have that patient care, but that's not our modern reality. And I love so much what you said, YaShaun, about us being realistic about where we are at in this day and time, so that we can take care of ourselves rather than being mad at a system. Being mad at a system, please use your sacred rage to be pissed off. However, do something about it so you and your fibroids today in your own body can get some relief, because there is another way. YaShaun, I've learned so much from you in this podcast, and I think we could go, because it's like we didn't talk enough about cycle syncing our entire life, because I know me and you are both people who cycle sync our entire life, and we could talk also about kind of like, what medical advocacy looks like, and putting a care team together between like your holistic practitioner and your coach and your doctor, and how those pieces all work together, and how nutrition plays into that. So you just gonna have to come back so we can have these conversations, because I didn't get enough. But we're gonna round us out without having to have y'all here for 200 more years, because we could go. We're gonna round us off with a segment that we call Truth or Transform. And Parshell, I would love for you to kind of take us into this piece where we talk about some of the industry truths, that are going on, and see what YaShaun's take really is on. Oh, Parshell, you are on mute.
And I was going. All right, y'all, it's time for Truth or Transform. This is where we get real about the what's working and what's not in our world. So we're about to separate the truth, right, from what the outside, right, stuff, and really look at what needs an upgrade when we think about these things. So in this segment, I'm going to present some common beliefs about womb wellness. And YaShaun, I want you to be brutally honest. Is it a truth we should embrace, or does it need to be transformed? Thank you, Grits, for today's world. Are you ready to shake things up? You ready? All right. So first, fact or fiction. Not fact or... Oh, my God. No, I did not just say fact or fiction. Truth or transform? Is your doctor's job to make your period pain go away? It's your doctor's
True.
job to make your period pain go away. Truth.
I would say true.
Okay. All right, the next one. Your OBGYN is your best option for understanding your womb wellness symptoms.
I would say transform.
Why would you say so?
What do you think the answer to that is?
Transform because it is your doctor, OBGYN's job to educate you. But they're only needing to educate you where you are at that time. It is your responsibility to gather more information. Remember, doctor's office you go to when you need assistance, when you need help. But education is where practitioners come in, where coaches come in. You have to seek the help that you want.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, here's another one. Getting on birth control is the best way to relieve all period pain or discomfort.
No, that is transform all day.
Yes. All right, and then the last one to round us out in this section. Nutrition and cycle syncing is one of the best practices that all menstruators should be using to support their symptoms.
%. That is the baseline that you can start with.
Hear this? The baseline. The baseline. Start cycle syncing today. Again, this is like a hill I could die on. Really good.
No, I mean, you're 100% right, because even if you aren't aware of your symptoms, take it one phase at a time instead of trying to take it 1 month or one menstrual cycle at a time. You can say, I'm going to just pay attention to ovulation for the next 3 months and learn what to do just in that phase. You don't have to start where the pain is, and you have to give your permission to start where it's the easiest. We are always told to start with the most painful and most difficult. When I tell clients to tell me their 3 pain points, I don't care if it's not painful, it's just annoying. If it's an eye twitch, we'll start with an eye twitch even though it's not in the womb. Because we don't know where it's coming from and it's more annoying. Sometimes what's more annoying is more important than what's painful, because you get used to pain.
Michelle, you're on mute again.
Whoop, whoop. All right. Well, that's it for Truth or Transform. This is a great conversation. I just wanted to say that. I learned a lot, and I think before we recorded, I was like, I'm not going to have much to, say or contribute. And I don't know why I thought that.
I'm going to say something about that right here before we pop off. I think that oftentimes folks that have been raised and socialized as women that have chosen a different gender expression in their life get exited out of this conversation. And I don't think that that's fair, because all of us are living, breathing, and living with, that are living with wombs, are living with these symptoms. So if you're hearing this and you are someone that is gender expansive, or you are someone that identifies as a trans man, as a man, as non-binary, as a woman, or even as a masculine of center woman, please make sure that you allow yourself to get in relationship with this work, because you also don't have to exist quietly in pain because of not having gender affirming specialists, practitioners, and doctors that actually can help to speak for you. So much of what YaShaun said today is about self-advocacy. You can also be in your own relationship with your own cycles that is not going to require somebody else to validate you in the ways that they absolutely should. I just wanted to put that disclaimer in. YaShaun, thank you so much for being here. I've so loved getting to kind of dive into this with you and dive into this with Parshell. I'd love to know kind of like, where can folks find you? What's going on in your world? If folks know that they want to get more support, from you, where best can we be pointing them in that direction?
So at YaShaun Inspires is my handle for YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and also Pinterest. You can find me at YaShaun Inspires. I do recommend going through TikTok or joining my community group, which is in all of the links in bios, so that you can get first contact with me. You're going to talk to me directly. Come to office hours, you're going to talk to me directly. Click on the link tree, click on the link in the bios. Because I find that you can go to the website, but you'll become overwhelmed when you're not understanding what you're looking for. So start with my content. Go to my TikTok, come to my Instagram, join the conversation in office hours, ask your questions, and join the Holistic Health 101 community group and learn how you can start changing your life today. That's the minimum you can do. So find me in the community group and find me on social media at YaShaun Inspires.
I have so loved this, Parshell, and thank you so much for all of us being here to have this conversation. This has been so impactful, and just like, again, an eye-opener that I hope we come back and we get to have more conversations about how we can be good to our bodies, and particularly good to our womb spaces.
Beautiful. Thank you, ladies. We are out.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen and consider what was shared today. Thanks to our guests for sharing. Thank you to Parshell for holding us in this container. And thank you for listening. We hope that something that was shared today sparks a new idea, inspires a new action, or creates something that you're excited to share with your community.
And thanks to Portia for leading this wonderful conversation and for bringing the vibe. Make sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and hit us up on LinkedIn or Instagram. We want to hear what this sparks for you. So do us a favor, drop a review or leave a comment with what you thought.
All right, then. We will see you next time on the Ocean Money Learning Podcast. I'm already looking forward to it.
Me too.